So I have two great loves. My first great love, well, I'm not even going to quantify it. I have two great loves, Leslie Lowell and the Grateful Dead. And for a time in my young adult life, the Grateful Dead was like a vortex that I entered, and during the summer of my 22nd year. See, my first girlfriend and I followed them around the East Coast for 5 years in a VW bus that we bought for $700. And it's probably one of the only regrets that I have in my life is that I sold it.
Oh.
At a garage sale.
Oh.
I know. So anyways.
For how much?
$400. Wow. And now they're going for like 30 grand. It's unbelievable. And it was chartreuse, and there was a big Kermit the Frog on the side, and it was called Kermit. It's just beautiful. I could do a whole story on that. So anyways, now I've seen the band like 250 times. Like, I'm a Deadhead, okay? So my very best friend in the world, her name is Jen. I met her in a parking lot in a Grateful Dead show in Albany, New York, like 30 years ago. And while on tour with the Dead, I discovered crystals and beading and organic food, and like we sold it out of the back of trucks, and parking lot life was just amazing, and it was an adventure, and everything was sweet when we were on tour, and every night the music, and the music, and I was young and newly gay and thin, and life was great, man. Oh yeah, no, I'll always be young for sure, obviously, right? Now, I'm the daughter of a long-haired hippie stagehand father and an IBM corporate Jewish mother, so I think it's only natural that I wound up a gay deadhead. Yeah, so now in 1995, Leslie and I had been together for about 3 years, and we moved up to San Francisco, and she got a job with the San Francisco Bay Guardian. I was going to school at San Francisco State. And then on August 9th of 1995, at 10 a.m. about in the morning, I heard the news that Jerry Garcia died. And the world around me instantly downshifted into very slow motion, and it was one of the sunniest days of the entire summer in San Francisco. If you've ever spent any amount of time in San Francisco, you remember all 4 of the sunny days that they've had in the last 15 years. And then even the really drab colors of the theatrical supply warehouse that I worked in became really sharp and bright. And I was held suspended, and my feet became really conscious of the space in my steel-toed boots, and they were now affixed to the cement floor, and my hands went thick and they became clumsy, and I fought to keep my throat open and my tears from coming. And where was I when Garcia died is forever gouged in my memory. The city was full of Garcia and the Grateful Dead, and San Francisco is a genetic makeup of the band, okay? And I was really relieved that I was living in San Francisco on that day. A dear friend from college and I, we meandered through the Haight, and we went to 710 Ashbury, which is the house that they lived in, and I sat on the stairs and I lit a candle, and we went to the polo fields with a bunch of other mourners, and we mourned. And we kind of found solace amongst the Deadheads. And if you've never been to a show, and if you just, whether you like the music or not, just go and see the people. Go to the parking lot. You don't even have to buy a ticket to the show. Just get hip to this camaraderie. I had never experienced anything like it, and I still, to this day. And I go and I do my life and everything else, but when the Dead come to town, I'm there, and I'm thrown back. So I've absolutely missed Jerry Garcia every single day since then. Now, he died, and everything kind of went wonky, and there have been many incarnations. Now, in 2015, the remaining members of the Grateful Dead got together, and they said, this is it. We're doing a reunion show. 3 shows for our 50th anniversary. The last time that the remaining members of the Grateful Dead are going to be together, it's going to be in Chicago, the last place that Garcia ever played. And it's going to be on July 3rd, 4th, and 5th. My birthday is July 5th. I was like, you're kidding. I'm going. That's it. I got on the phone. I talked to my friends back east and my buddy in the Midwest and my buddy that lives here in LA. And we're all going to go and we're going to meet in Chicago and we're going to a Dead show. This is it. Because it's the last Grateful Dead show ever. And I freaked out. I was like, we have to be there. So the day that the tickets get on sale, we all get online, and tickets are not like what they used to be. We used to like camp out for a day and a half in front of a music store, and you go and you buy and you get as many tickets as you want, and that was it. But no. Nowadays, you have to get on your computer. So there were 5 of us, including Leslie at the time, and she was really rooting for me. Now, my wife is an 80s freak. She's the Eurythmics and Depeche Mode and Simple Minds and Tears for Fears, and if she never heard the Grateful Dead again, she'd be fine. So, we, all of us, we got on our laptops and we get on our desktops and we're all trying to get in, right? Doing this whole thing. Within 10 minutes, they were sold out, and it became and within 19 minutes of them going on sale, they were going for $15,000 on StubHub. And in the 30 years that I'd been following the Grateful Dead, I had never been shut out, and sure enough, I got shut out. I couldn't believe it. And then I just started moping around. I was just a piece of sloth, blah. Like sloths had more personality than I did for about a month. And then I couldn't find the joy, and I'm a self-helper. I know how to bring myself up. I know how to it's okay, it's all good. Nope, couldn't happen until they announced another show in Northern California the weekend before. I was like, sweet, I'm totally going, we're in, this is it. Now, in that month, Leslie had gone to a cousin's funeral. And when she came back from the funeral, she looked at me and she goes, we have to get married. We've been together for 23 years at this point. And I go, okay, I'm the hopeless romantic. I'm the one that believes in forever. You say marriage. I said, where, when, let's do it. Absolutely. So I get online and I fill out all of the things. And so I get the tickets to go to the show. And the night before we're going to go, I'm going to leave on a Friday after work. I have to be to work at 5 a.m., right? And so we've taken off 1 o'clock. I'm going to be in the Bay Area by dinner time. We're going to do this, right? So before I leave, we get together and we totally gay about it, and we both like click submit together, and we had both of our hands were on the mouse. It was very cute and silly and juvenile. I was like, oh my god. So we submitted to get our marriage license in the state of California, right? And that is like 10 o'clock at night. I go to bed, I get to work, I have my headphones on, and I'm singing Grateful Dead, and it's all awesome, and I'm like throwing food on the shelves, and it's all good. And at about 8 o'clock, the next shift comes into Trader Joe's, and my buddy, I'm in the frozen aisle, and my buddy Amadou walks in and he goes, hey, congratulations. And here's my head. I go, I know, right? I totally have tickets. I'm going to see the Grateful Dead. And he just looks at me and he goes, oh, you haven't heard. And I'm like, what do you mean? I got here at 5 o'clock. What is there to hear? And then it washes over me that the Supreme Court signed into law that same-sex marriage is now legal. And I was like, it passed? And I broke into tears, and I'm like, I gotta call Leslie. And I go running out the back, and then I was like, wait a minute, we just 8 hours earlier hit submit to get married. And then I was like, oh my god, we totally did this, right? So our friends started calling it hashtag Les and Jules Act 2015, right? That was it. We have a hashtag, right? So I call her up. Now, Leslie is a newsiac. She grew up, Mary Tyler Moore is her whole life as a kid, right? Used to have a little, she would put on a thing and she would cut out news articles and read them at a desk. And she was, and like wanted to be Mary Tyler Moore. So I called her up. I'm like, dude, it passed. She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, what? You hadn't heard. First time in 23 years where I delivered news. It was awesome. And I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be so great. We're gonna go up to the boulevard and let's watch all the boys in wedding dresses. I'm going to see the Grateful Dead. I'm leaving after work. And in that moment, everything stopped. And my two great loves just were tearing me apart. And neither one of them were making any demands. So we got to the Bay Area about dinner time, and it was really weird because so we went, and it was also Pride weekend in San Francisco and New York that same weekend. I was like, did they know that when they signed that into law? I said maybe RGB, maybe Ruth, but I don't think the other ones knew. So it was kind of cool because we were driving up, and there were like guys and girls with Mardi Gras beads in the overpass, and there was one dude holding up a sign that said like, God hates gays or something like this. And I was like, oh my God. And then there were a bunch of like totally like barely clad gay guys with a sign with an arrow to it. It says, that guy's a dick. It was awesome. It was really great. I was like, yay, honking. We get in there, and then the next day we go to the stadium which is at 49er Stadium. Right? So this bastion of jocularity is hosting the Grateful Dead, and they're flying a rainbow flag. I was just like, oh my God, could this be any more phenomenal? Well, yeah, if Leslie was here, it could be, and if Jerry was still alive. And I went into this whole mind trip about it, right? So I go to the show, and they start playing songs that I didn't really know. I'm like, I've seen them 250 times. I didn't realize that they had songs I didn't know. And it was really weird, and it was awkward, and I was like, I could have stayed home so easily. And I was like, oh, this is weird. I've been looking forward to it and all of that. And then the craziest thing in the whole wide world happened. At 8:45 on June 26th of 2015, in the evening, it was still light out, but it was twilight, right? I'm not even kidding you. It wasn't raining, and if you want to, you can come in. I have a picture of it. There was a full arc rainbow over the stadium and over the stage. And I'm like, whoo. And I'm like, does everybody else see that? I'm like, yeah, but they're all on acid, so they probably saw it before I did, before it even appeared, you know what I mean? And everybody's like, oh my God, they're totally Grateful Dead did that. The Grateful Dead did that. I was like, whatever. Now, the Grateful Dead don't get up and tell stories and sing songs. They get up and they play for 2.5 hours, and then they say, we'll be right back, and they split, and they come back, and then they play for another 2.5 hours, and then they say, thank you, good night, and that's it, and they're gone. And it's pretty amazing because you just dance for 5 hours, and it's epic. At the end of the show, Bill Kreutzmann, who's one of the founding members, he's a drummer, he got up and he came to the microphone and he said, this is a pretty monumental week in our country, and I know you all saw the rainbow. And I was like, he got it. And he's talking to me at this point, because out of 60,000 people, there's maybe 500 gay deadheads. Maybe out of all deadheads, there's maybe 500 gay deadheads. And here's this straight white guy that I followed around the entire East Coast for the whole of my 20s, and he got me. And I was just like, that made not knowing any of the songs totally worth it. And so the next day, my bestie and I, we drove back down to LA, and I told Leslie about the rainbow and about not knowing any songs and how I felt weird, and I kind of was like leaving something behind, and I kind of felt like maybe I had outgrown the Grateful Dead. And then the remaining members of the Grateful Dead, or at least 3 of them, got together with a dude named John Mayer. I don't know if everybody's heard of him. And they became Dead and Company, and then Dead and Company were playing at the Forum on New Year's Eve, and the night before New Year's Eve. I'm telling you, that reflexes are right there from working in a grocery store. And I thought, you know, it's definitely different since Jerry died, and it's definitely different being married, right? And because when somebody looks at Leslie and I, they go, oh my God, are you guys related? I can say, yeah. She's my wife. It's different. It's just freaking different. And the Grateful Dead, they came to town, and they came on New Year's Eve and the 30th and the 31st, and I go, am I gonna go? Am I gonna go see the Dead? You bet your ass I went to go see the Grateful Dead. I went on the 30th, and I spent New Year's Eve with my wife. So that's a long story, but yeah, there you have it. That's me and Leslie and the Grateful Dead. So yeah.
Woo woo!
and Matt, you guys want to jam?
Yeah, you in my car.
Yeah, anybody want to play? I've got an extra guitar.
We'll close out.